My father grew up in Deolali. He was born there and he was growing up there. And he was about 8 years old and he was playing out, as kids do. And it was kite flying season. Do you know about the kite flying?
The kite flying, the competition with the kites?
Yeah, everybody goes out and flies kites.
Cut the kites?
Yeah, and when somebody gets cut, everybody chases after where the kite's coming down to try and catch the kite. And one got cut and it started to come down. So my father and his mates chased after it and they found it. So Dad picked it up. He was first to get there. He was proudly carrying it home, this splendid kite like he could never have bought for himself. And as he was walking home, this horse-drawn carriage came charging up, trot, 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 stopped by him, and the little window opened, and from behind the curtain, this lady said, "Little boy, I want that kite." So she pulled out some money and gave it to him, much more money than he'd ever had, and more than the kite would have cost to replace. So he sort of handed her the kite, and she took the kite and said, "Thank you very much." And then from her finger, she slipped off this ring and gave it to my father and said, "This is for saving my honor." Dad didn't know what it meant, so took it home and found out much later that there were a couple of quite important people, sort of minor prince and princess or aristocracy or somebody, and they were engaged to each other and they'd both come to Deolali on holiday before the wedding, living in separate places, and they'd had this kite fight. And he had cut her kite and he would want to get his hands on it as a sort of triumph over her, but she couldn't allow that to happen. And because my father had found the kite and given it back to her, he had saved her honor.
Saved her honor?
Her honor, because she would have been dishonored or teased or
so
whatever.
So she plucks off the finger ring.
Yeah, and gives it to my father. And this is it, I understand.
And that is it. Now, the ring itself, let's bring it down to earth, rather like the kite.
Okay.
The ring, as you can see, horseshoe shape, set with a line of red stones, probably made around about 1910, 1915, so that corresponds with your sense of the date. Now, I've had a look at the stones underneath my lens. I'm not entirely sure that they're all real stones, actually. I think that they are probably a little bit of a combination of real rubies and probably glass.
Yeah.
The mount, it's a dull red gold colour, and I would say therefore it's probably 9 carat gold.
Okay.
Let me move on to this bracelet because there it is winking at me. You tell me a bit about the bracelet now.
This is from our play box. So when we were dressing up, we would put on the princess ring and the bracelet. It was an armband. It would go around your arm. We'd all dress up in mum's old saris and, you know, wander about pretending to be mummies and whatever, aunties. And again, it was tarnished and horrible and kind of dark brown, and I had it cleaned. And somebody said, "Oh, it's chips of uncut diamond." So, okay, well, I don't think so. But
I mean, it would be very unlikely that your mother would have just said, "Let's put this into the toy box, let the children play with it," if it happened to be anything but just brass and glass. Brass and glass.
I think it's brass and glass.
Well, you're wrong.
Am I?
Yes. They are diamonds and they're very, very flat indeed.
Yes.
Typical cuts from the region. Now, the interesting component for me is not the fact that you've got these rudimentary cut diamonds, it's the red stones.
Okay.
Because the red stones, they're not glass, they're called spinels.
Oh, spinels.
Spinels. And spinel is a gem that we see quite rarely. And I ought to say, by the way, you thought it was brass, didn't you?
Yes.
High carat gold. All right, so shall we move on to what they might be worth? The kite runner ring, as we'll call it that.
Okay.
Bit of a mixture of stones, not all rubies, 9 carat gold. Store is priceless. The sentimentality of this is worth 1 million rupees. But the value in commercial terms, 30 to 50 pounds.
Fine.
The brass and glass bracelet that you casually used as a plaything, 1,500 to 2,000 pounds.
Wow. That is a surprise.
I know it is, isn't it? Only goes to show.
Okay.
1,500 to 2,000 pounds for a dressing up bracelet.